In the modern professional environment, we have adopted a strange new reflex. Asking for clarity is treated as a danger. Questioning a basic premise is met as if it were an act of physical aggression. Welcome to the Discernment Drop. We are going to map exactly how this architecture was built. To understand this shift, we look to a recent analysis by Pastor John L. Widdifield, titled The Sovereignty of the Self and the Anchored Truth. Historically, cultural hysteria focused on the unseen. We look back at the Satanic panic and mock the fear of hidden forces. Yet today, we actively refuse to look at organized systems operating right out in the open. We are not watching a sudden breakdown in social manners. We are living through a quiet, methodical epistemological shift. The baseline of how we define reality moved steadily, and almost no one noticed the crossing. The exact turning point was linguistic. We transitioned from stating, "This is what is true," to declaring, "This is my truth." That phrase did not remain a personal, internal coping mechanism. It metastasized into a public expectation, a demand that society must physically and verbally accommodate. We now operate in an inverted framework. Reality is no longer an external metric we discover. It is an internal metric we declare, and then enforce on everyone else. To see this inversion, we have to look past philosophical debates and examine the structural systems governing daily life. Consider the mandates now embedded in our school districts. Policies increasingly dictate the mandatory use of preferred pronouns. These policies legally bind institutions to treat a self-declared identity as objective reality. This exact logic tree governs corporate human resources. HR departments no longer limit themselves to regulating professional conduct. They now regulate foundational beliefs and language. Affirmation is an expected condition of your employment. Inside higher education, frameworks are rewired to teach students that truth is located entirely within themselves. Internal identity is now the mandatory starting point for interpreting all external data. The casualties of this architecture are entirely predictable. Teachers are routinely disciplined over standard biological pronoun usage. Public figures lose their positions and livelihoods over a single misaligned sentence. Entire institutional policies are rewritten overnight, simply because one individual declared a new internal feeling to be true. These are not isolated viral headlines. They form a deliberate, repeating operational pattern. In every major societal institution, the internal subjective feeling has assassinated external objective truth and assumed its place as the ultimate authority. This raises a mechanical question. How did a highly subjective, deeply illogical system achieve total societal compliance without firing a single shot? The system succeeded through its disguise. It presents itself as a crusade of absolute compassion. It relies on a series of strict redefinitions. In this framework, affirmation is equated with kindness. Absolute agreement is redefined as a matter of physical safety. And forced silence is framed as wisdom. Under these new rules, the general populace slowly begins to adjust their behavior. They do not comply because they are intellectually convinced by the arguments. The true driver of this mass compliance is profound psychological exhaustion. People are simply tired. They are tired of being maliciously misunderstood and systematically labeled as the problem. The result is highly effective. Rational people simply stop speaking. The moment a critical mass of the population chooses silence, the entire subjective structure stabilizes. This worldview does not win by intellectually conquering truth. It wins by making the social cost of speaking truth too expensive to bear. Step back and analyze the psychological immune response of the modern era. Why does a simple disagreement or a request for evidence now trigger a response indistinguishable from physical trauma? The logic dictates that if reality is completely internal, any external challenge ceases to be a correction. It is processed as an existential threat to the self. Years ago, Peter H. Gilmore described a philosophy where individuals literally become the gods of their own subjective universes. At the time, his writings were dismissed as theatrical, edgy rebellion. Today, that exact theatrical rebellion is quietly embedded as the baseline assumption of Western society. The system is too smart to loudly declare there is no truth. Instead, it opts for the far more insidious phrase, "Truth is personal." We can trace this back to the oldest recorded temptation in human history, the Edenic promise of "you will be like God." That original temptation was never a desire for chaos or destruction. It was a desire for redefinition. The core hubris is the desire to determine and declare what is real, rather than humbly receive a reality created by someone else. That ancient temptation maps perfectly onto modern cultural mandates like live your truth and be your authentic self. Society accepts these slogans because continuous repetition makes them feel normal. But normal is not the same as true. This requires a precise countermeasure. We do not panic, we do not rage, and we do not retreat. Our primary defense is to see the pattern clearly for exactly what it is. It is the consistent, systemic elevation of the self into the throne of ultimate authority. Against this, we hold to 3 axioms of anchored truth. First, truth is never created, it is only revealed. Second, identity is never invented, it is gracefully given. Third, reality is never negotiated, it is absolutely fixed. Our physical posture in this environment is a quiet, steady, unmistakable refusal to culture defined by shifting chaos. This refusal stands in stark contrast. Standing firm in objective truth does not make a person look rigid, it makes them look anchored. Observers can feel the weight of this difference, particularly when they lack the cultural vocabulary to explain it. We rest on the ultimate, immovable reality that shatters the subjective universe. Christ is King. Hail to the King.